Jatin, a very warm welcome to this special event of ours. But you know I have a prerequisite, right? Before I start any session, I have to have a huge round of applause from you guys so that we keep the energy going. Yeah, so see, India has officially grown into the world's second largest anime consumer market, with industry data projecting the domestic anime economy to hit $3.3 billion by 2034. As India shifts from a passive viewer base to the world's fastest growing market, how can Japanese production houses and Indian distributors capitalize on this momentum, moving the narrative from mere screen time and to taking it to a massive multi-billion-dollar licensing and merchandising ecosystem? And how will this help India's own growing animation market, specifically in addressing talent gaps and developing highly localized content? Joining us, Comic-Con founder Jatin Verma. Any anime fans here? Too many. Any one of you who's attended Comic-Con in Delhi, Mumbai? Okay, that one gentleman here. Have you cosplayed? Maybe in the upcoming sessions. Jatin, first of all, a very warm welcome. Comic-Con, you know, is such a huge property now in India. When you started back in, I think, 2011, did you imagine it to become this big? And when you started, what was the thought that triggered it?
Thanks for having me. When we started 15 years ago, it was just a passion project. It was because I was really into comics, and I thought it would be a lot of fun to do our own convention. And it had never happened in India before. But then very early on, we kind of realized that we hit upon something really unique, and it grew from there. That first show had about a few thousand people back in Delhi, in Delhi Heart, if anyone's ever been to that open air market. And now we are in over 14 cities with over 350,000 people who attend our shows. So it's become a very massive...
Wow, give it up for Comic-Con as well, guys. I mean, it's such a collaborative event. You know, everybody who comes there has that volunteer energy because, you know, everybody is there for their own passion. And that's something that Comic-Con is really known for. And I love that spirit as well. What was your first interaction with anime or comics or manga?
I think, genuinely, I think my first sort of on-purpose interaction was me coming across the Buddha series by the great Osamu Tezuka. It was one of the first sort of manga books that you could get in India. But inadvertently, apparently, I got to know much later in my life that my first interaction with anime was actually on Doordarshan because we used to watch Jungle Book. And much later did I realize that that was actually anime, not a regular animated show.
And now, you know, we see regional dubbing of anime as well.
Yeah.
And that, I think, has taken it from metro cities to tier 3 cities as well. Do you think the reach of it was very crucial to happen in 2026, and regional dubbing is essentially behind it?
So I think something happened during the pandemic, which really, obviously there was a lot more access to anime on streaming apps, and that opened up a whole market that already existed, but really blew it up. And then post-pandemic, when we saw all these streaming apps dub a lot of the popular anime series into local languages, the penetration went from just Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore to tier 2, tier 3 cities. And unlike you know, the Marvel or the DC superhero sort of boom that happened in the past decade, this had a deeper reach to it. It connected with fans beyond the most obvious places that we would find them. And it is now a part of life. You cannot assume that any Comic-Con can happen without anime and manga. You cannot imagine any pop culture event in India happening without anime and manga, and it's now going to be there forever, and I think it has a deeper reach than anything else from outside.
While we are chatting here, I also want to tell you that it's a conversation with you guys as well. So I'll, somewhere in between, we'll pause for questions from you guys as well. So keep your questions ready. Now, a lot of Indians, you know, got introduced to anime through Doraemon as well.
Yes.
How many of you are Doraemon fans or have watched Doraemon? Which I think is an Indian pronunciation of the character. It's pronounced differently in Japanese, by the way. But what are your thoughts? Do you think that was a good introduction for Indians to start anime journey with?
I, I mean, it was. I think a lot of people. I was. It was a generation after mine in terms of content consumption. So I was much older when it started really becoming big in India. But I think it was
You
dubbed.
don't look a day over 20 though.
But I think it was the first sort of mass penetration of anime into India without the audience realizing that it was anime. And it was popular because of its own sort of reach. I think Doraemon, Shin-chan, all of that. But I don't think the people who were consuming it back then thought of it as anime. And then now, when we are consuming all these series, they're more aware of the fact that this is Japanese content. And I know a lot of people have debates with each other at Comic-Con about, did they consume this series in the original Japanese version with subtitles, or are you watching it dubbed? So it depends on how a serious fan you are.
Do they look down upon those who watch the dubbed version? The purists.
Yes. So you really didn't pay attention if you weren't watching it with subtitles, right?
Right.
Because you can't look away. But yeah, I mean, it was a very great way of initiating people to anime, but that was a very simple form of it. And now I think fans get to realize the depth and the volume of anime library and manga in general. It spans all sorts of genres and age groups as well. So there's something for everyone there.
Okay, for starters, for our audience here or people who are watching us online as well, if you had to define anime and manga for them in layman's language, what would be your explanation?
So manga is essentially comic books, and anime is the animated version of either those comic books or original stories. And anime is perceived to be inherently Japanese because it's a very specific style of animation that we attribute to Japan. And so when someone thinks of anime, they have a very clear idea about what type of sensibility they're looking at.
There's another thing about anime. You know, here in India, when we talk about cartoons, we essentially link them with kids, right? But something with anime is really special, that age no bar.
No, age, class, no bar. In fact, gender no bar. In fact, I mean, anecdotally, I feel like more women watch anime than men, but I feel like it's because of the sheer volume of the type of things that you can consume, the type of stories and type of character arcs and franchises, you have something for everyone. So it's a little more engaging than what you assume when it comes to, say, the superhero universe, right? So which is why it's growing massively, which is why India is the second largest consumption market for anime. And I think maybe in the next decade, we'll be on the business side of it also a very important market for them.
And I think when we look at Indian market, I don't think it's just about the numbers. There's something about Indian consumers' behavior as well. What do you think can Japanese producers really, learn or let's say keep in mind when they're tapping into the Indian market?
So, I mean, specifically when it comes to this type of content, the penetration is much more stickier with the Indian fans than, say, we've seen with Western comics or Western content. If you become a fan of anime and manga, you tend to stay with it forever. You're not a casual fan. You tend to invest a lot of your time and effort into it. Just to give you a number, last year there was a movie called Demon Slayer Infinity Castle, which released in India. It was dubbed in a bunch of languages. It did approximately about 80 crores of box office return, which was higher than the Superman movie which released last year. So that tells you there is a very massive market sitting here and waiting to consume this content.
When you are designing Comic-Con, do you also keep these numbers, figures, market size in mind? Let's say you have dedicated sections for anime, manga, and several other categories there. But are there any figures or what kind of strategy are you looking at when you're designing Comic-Con or sections there?
So when we did the first Comic-Con, back then also we had fans of anime and manga, but it would be in the corner. Now, when you enter a Comic-Con, the first thing you see is probably anime and manga, then you see the superheroes on the side. And that's because the past 5-10 years have been massive, and post-pandemic, it's taken over our shows in a very big way. We do look at what's happening in the market, we do look at numbers, but the market drives how we would want to curate our shows. So 10 years ago, the biggest things that you would come to Comic Con and see would be Iron Man, Spider-Man, Batman. Now the biggest things you'll see is One Piece, Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen. And that is driving not just the experience zones that you'll visit, the sponsors that we might have, it also drives the bookstores or the book curation that would be at Comic Con or the merch that you'll see. So right now we are living in an anime and manga world in India, and it's here to stay for a while.
Do you have your favorite anime character or anime in general or manga?
So I am obsessed with Gundam, which is a much older anime which came out in the late 70s, I think. It still has many variations. So I loved Gundam, Robotech, Macross Saga, and I'm a big Godzilla fan. So I have collected and watched all the original Toho movies, all the animated versions that have come out, and yeah, I just can't get over it.
I have more questions, but before that, we'll pause for questions from you guys. If you have any question for Jatin, please raise your hand and a mic shall reach you. Can we send this gentleman a mic, please? Please start with your name and your question there.
Yeah. Hello, sir. My name is Rahul, and I'm learning Japanese for past 1 year. And my question is, I have two questions basically. First one is, when you first started in 2011, did you expected like Indian audience to embrace anime and gaming as deeply as they have today? And where do you see the next big shift happening?
I mean, no, I don't think I expected it to be this deep in terms of the reach. I know there was always obviously going to be a fascination with it. Manga was a very influential art form that not only influenced India but also the West. So it was always a part of our shows, but where it's reached right now, it's not something I ever imagined. And I think in terms of the next 10 years, I see a lot more, I would say, content coming out of India influenced by manga and anime. We already see it in comics, and we see a bunch of animated productions happening in India which are in that style. And hopefully in the next 10 years, we also see a lot of Indian content going to Japan, and the Japanese audience is lapping it up as well. Yeah, that's what I see in the next few years.
Okay, so my next question is that India has incredibly rich storytelling culture, but local creators, comic creators, are often struggle to find mainstream success. So what do you think is the main missing link to make Indian comic globally successful?
We as Indians, unfortunately, don't read a lot. So when you don't read regular books, the comic books are a smaller part of that story. But I feel like when you get fascinated with stuff like manga and anime, I think it has a inadvertent effect of you also curious about what's happening in India. And we saw that with the Marvel and DC's boom, where because people were fascinated by those characters in comic books and movies, they were also looking for Indian stories. So we saw a boom in Indian comics as well, and I hope this also has a similar effect.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your question. Any other question here? Okay. Can we send the mic there?
Hello, sir. My name is Chandra, and I'm from St. Stephen College from Japanese Society. So my question is, like, many students are very interested in Japanese anime, comics, and Japanese pop culture, but they don't see it as a viable career path. So what advice do you want to give to young people that want to invest their time in this industry and want to take part in this industry?
Creative industries are usually tougher for people to break into. It's not an unknown fact. But I think in the past few years, we've seen a new policy that came out with from the government of India called avgc. And C in it stands for comics, under which they have set up an Indian Institute of Creative Technologies, which is going to come out with courses and potential job opportunities in this space, in comics, publishing, and animation especially. So I think there is viability in it, but I won't be, I don't want to mince my words by saying that it's a very easy industry to break into and have success. But on the other side, we are the biggest consumption market for pretty much everything. So there's always going to be an opportunity to, do something unique.
Yes, that ABCG announcement came in, I think, last budget, and I hope that does wonders and also helps the community here as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And as we speak here, and of course this is about Indo-Japan relationships as well. Today there's an announcement which is Dhurandhar, which is one of the biggest hits of our times, is now going to get released in Japan as well. So I think when we say there's a cultural exchange, we send them movies, they send us their anime and manga as well. But what can we do so that Indian comic creators can also penetrate that market, or Indian anime creators also penetrate that market? Because as someone pointed here as well, that we have great art of storytelling, but how do we penetrate that market?
That is a tougher sell. I think we have to create enough volume of quality content to then pitch it to that market. In the quality of content and the volume of it in India is still small as compared to, say, Japan, which is why you're seeing audiences in India lap up this content, because there's so much of it and so many different variations and genres. When it comes to us exporting our content, it's still limited in the size and volume which could go international. So when you hear about Dhurandhar getting dubbed and being showcased in Japan, that's great. Ideally, it should be 10 or 15, 20 more movies along with Dhurandhar. But it's a slow trickle out. Hopefully in the next 15 years, we might see this exchange being a little more fairly balanced. Right now, it's all incoming, but I'm hopeful that we should also get some more exports going out.
Coming back to Comic-Con, of course, we said that, how anime serves to different set of audiences, and of course, gender no bar, age no bar. When it comes to cosplay, a lot of women also, outnumber the men. What do you think is the reason behind it? Do you think it's kind of an enabler, or what's driving that change that you see during Comic-Con?
So Comic-Con is a mixture of everything in pop culture, but the thing that drives its success is community. And there are different communities. There are comic book communities, and there's obviously cosplay, which is short for costume play. And it's become massive in the past 10 years, where, for example, if we have a show in Delhi which has about 50,000 people showing up, about 8 to 10,000 people will be in some sort of costume. And more than 1/3 or half of it would obviously end up being dominated by anime and manga. And that's become really big in the past few years, post-pandemic. And this is where we see fans who are really passionate about something coming out and showcasing their passion through those costumes. It can be as simple as being Chacha Chaudhary, or coming as one of your favorite characters from your favorite manga or anime. And it's not, like you said, it has a lot more women cosplaying as well. And what's happened in the past few years is where we have created an Indian championship of cosplay, where we see cosplayers taking it from a casual fun thing to making it into an actual profession and doing it professionally. And also India becoming a part of the World Cosplay Summit in Japan, where some of the best cosplayers in India go to Japan and showcase their creativity. So cosplay is a major part of this, and anime and manga have played a very special role in sort of pushing it forward.
It's really an emotion, when people come dressed up as their favorite characters. Any cosplay story that stays in your mind, because kids also show up as their favorite superheroes, or of course there are adults portraying their favorite anime character. Anything that stood out for you? Any cosplay story, any chapter that you have?
I mean, the most memorable story that I have is that from the first ever 15 years ago, since we started doing our first ever Mumbai Comic Con, there is a gentleman there who shows up every year as Chacha Chaudhary for 15 years. And you see him growing grayer and older, and then also his kids coming along with him. A little more recent story would be that at every Comic-Con we have a cosplay parade. People get on stage in their costume. We actually had 2 cosplayers propose each other for marriage, sorry. So so cosplay every year, something or the other is always happening. So.
Lovely. I didn't realize it while I was talking to him, but when his shot got cut on the screen, I thought you were cosplaying as a Schneer Grover. You actually give that hint. Any connection there, or you you just happen to resemble him? But now let's also talk about Indian market. There are several Indian IPs that we have seen while growing up. But do you think a lot of work needs to be done on that front when it comes to original Indian IPs in the comic scene in 2026?
There are a lot of original Indian IPs.
First, do you think the scene has gotten better, or you think?
No, it's certainly gotten better,
Oh.
but it's still a niche. It's still a small segment of the market, and it's not easy being a comic book publisher or creator. Has it gotten better in the past 15 years? For sure, and especially right now where you can digitally or through social media reach everyone. We've seen many web comics get popular in India, be it Green Humor or Sanitary Panels or Good Do or Garbage Bin. So we see that happening. We don't have a dearth of talent. We just have a problem when it comes to reaching the audience, which is distribution. And that is something that, unfortunately, over the past 15 years, no one's been able to overcome. And when it comes to, like I said, reading books in general, we are a very small market. So when it comes to comic books, that's even smaller. And, people who grew up in the 90s reading Chacha Chaudhary or Raj comics, that generation's kind of grown older, and that idea of buying comics at your local bookstore or the railway station or your local market has gone away. So we are trying to figure out how to survive and thrive in this new era, and we're trying to use all the tools that are available to us, especially through social media. But like I said, we have a lot of unique talent and stories to share, but it's kind of gets overshadowed with the fact that we're not able to reach the audience easily.
Right. See, anime is also a great way to learn about the Japanese culture. Since this is Indo-Japan Strategic Dialogue, I want to ask you as well, when you started watching anime or when you had just started to, let's say, follow that path, was there anything that enamored you about the Japanese culture, or something that you learned or you got introduced to it via anime or manga?
I think, so I came to manga much later in life. I grew up reading Western comics and Indian comics, and then in my college time is when I discovered manga. I think that what kind of surprised me, and now I understand, is that manga and anime had a emotional quotient which wasn't the same when you read your Western comics or Western animated series or of sorts. There was a deeper connect that people who were really who got into anime or manga would end up having because of that emotional quotient in that content. And also, I was just blown away with the wide variety of content. I mean, like I talked about the Buddha series by Osamu Tezuka. On the other side, he had a series called Blackjack, which was about a doctor who would do intense surgeries and have weird adventures. Then there was a character called Dororo, which whose body parts could move around. I mean, and then obviously one of his most famous creations is Astro Boy, which was a completely different thing. So like I said, there's so much to go over when it comes to Japanese content. And that's something that's blown me away with the wide variety and the quality of content that comes with it.
Okay, I have a last set of questions from my side. Before that, if we have a question. Okay, Vedika has a question. Can we send the mic here? Or Vedika, your face mic, I think, would work. Can we make Vedika's face mic work, please? And then I'll come to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Hi, Jatin. This has been a great conversation. I have two questions for you. India has incredible mythology. So I want to know if there's potential to turn that into anime. If it's adapted the right way, it could perhaps become a phenomena in itself. And secondly, if there was an anime character that could be the guest of honor at Comic-Con India, who would you choose?
So I think, yeah, for sure, Indian mythology with anime makes sense. I think there was a Ramayana which came out, if I'm correct, in the 80s or early 90s, and then it was re-released recently. So I think there should be a Mahabharata anime. That would be intense, and not as a movie but as a series, because that requires a lot more deeper delving into. If I had to pick a character, I would pick probably Amuro from Gundam to be at Comic-Con. But I think a lot of people would probably go for One Piece right now because with the live action series. But then, yeah, I mean, there's so many. I don't know which one to pick.
Thank you.
Thank you for that lovely question, Vedika. Can we go to this lady in the middle, and then we'll come to you, sir. Ma'am, can you raise your hand so that they can reach you? Please start with your name and then the question.
Hello, sir. My name is Bhumi, and I study Japanese at Nihonkai. My question to you is, if Comic-Con had never happened, what do you think you would be doing instead?
I would be probably publishing comic books.
Wow. Well, do you guys know that he actually used to publish a magazine and he's produced love shows as well? Can you tell us about that?
Before I did Comic-Con, I used to produce television shows for Channel V. I used to do a lot of the reality dating shows. And then I used to publish comics. And I had a magazine called Random, which was a humor magazine like Mad Magazine. And all of that then got me into Comic-Con.
Did you also produce Dare to Date?
Yes.
Which I think most of you guys won't have watched because
No,
you
they're
guys
too
were
young
very
for
young.
it.
Yeah. Anybody else here? Yes. Ma'am, can you please pass the mic?
Hello, my name is Ritik. I'm a BTech second year student. And I have a question that in Indian households, there are misconceptions like families and parents consider anime as just cartoon or
हमारा लड़का तो कार्टून देखता है.
waste of time. So I want to get your take on it. That what do you think? I think anime passes on a story and multiple life lessons that we don't get to know, as many people now prefer to just be in their own circle. They don't want to interact. So
Only if I can add, I mean, what you're saying that you know parents usually have that opinion. I'm sure he's not of that opinion. But we can ask, what we can ask you is that how do we combat a situation like this where parents usually don't like the fact that you take it so seriously.
I have had that, running Comic-Con, I've had that problem for a very long time. And I shame people into it. I shame parents if they don't introduce their kids to animation and comics and books in general. I think the way to overcome it is to figure out how to get your parents also invested into all of this content. Especially when it comes to anime, I think we can find something which they would be up for.
What can they introduce them with? How do they start that journey? What do they show their parents first?
Maybe solo leveling, I don't know. But I think it's, I know that this misconceptions is there, but I feel like it's much lesser of a misconception than it used to be. I think the fact that anime, especially when it comes to anime, it's so mainstream now, and you see it in so many languages. I'm hopeful that parents will not be in that space anymore. And also, to be fair, with AI coming in, I think it's great to get into more creative spaces, consume that content, and become more creative in general, because a lot of the regular jobs are going to go away. So what's going to keep us alive is unique creativity out of humans, right?
For Indian parents, if you can mention a few revenue streams that one can have once they enter this industry, because I think what really works well in a conversation when you tell them, okay, this is the money that a person in anime makes. So what are the revenue streams that young generation can really tap into and then convince their parents?
I mean, look, it's avgc, right? Animation, gaming, VFX, comics, all of these are, and animation, gaming are some of the biggest industries out there. So there's obviously a lot of opportunities in those spaces. And I don't see that going away in the short term, even with AI. I think that's a space, a legitimate space already, which a lot of people can showcase that, I consume anime because this is a space that I want to professionally get into. And anime is essentially animation, right? So you're not joking around with it. But like I said, with the government policy of avgc coming in, there's going to be a lot more opportunities coming up in these sectors. And the government fueling and funding a lot of them. So I think misconceptions by parents would probably go away when comics become part of your coursework.
Yeah, of course, that could be a good move. Any other question? Okay. Let's keep it very quick. We'll try to accommodate both these questions. We'll begin with him and then...
Good afternoon, sir. I am Arun from MAIT. My question is, which anime character or comic character inspires you the most? And also, why does Comic-Con always happen during or close to the time of JLPT?
Sir, I can tell you that in India at any point in time there is some exam happening. So you can try organize any event in any state, in any city, at any week or month, there will be some exam happening that day. So unfortunately we can't help it. We're bound by the weather and the logistical issues. But my favorite character is actually not anime, it's actually Superman. But my the biggest influence in animation on me was an anime movie called Akira. If anyone's seen it, it's one of the most amazing movies that was ever created. It influences everything from real life cinema to animation till this date.
Thank you for your question. Can we send the mic here, please?
Hello, sir. I hope you're doing good. I have a question. Like, how did you got the idea about Comic Con? In India, it is not like very popular thing about anime, and it is not a useful thing. I would say, like a very used to thing. It is very new in India about Comic Cons and things. Like anybody, if you go to some places or ask some people, they will not know about Comic Con. How did you got this very interesting and new idea in India?
I don't think it happens anymore because it's not niche anymore, right?
No, it's not niche. It's
quite mainstream now. But yeah, good question there. How did you crack it, and what did you ever think that it'll get mainstream?
Like how did you got the confidence about it that your idea will work in India also?
When you're in your 20s, you have a lot more confidence in life. You can do anything in life, and that's how I got to that place. But I was publishing comic books. I was really into it, and at that point in time, I would do a lot of fun experiments. Like I did an event called the Golden Kela Awards, which was giving out all the worst Bollywood films there. Due.
Can we watch it somewhere?
It's not happened in in 10
No, but
years now.
is it on YouTube?
Yeah, it is on YouTube. You can watch
Golden Kela Awards. Oh, lovely.
Yeah,
We'll watch.
So
I'm assuming it's a parody.
yeah, it's a complete parody of actual film awards. So I was really into this space and I was publishing comics, and this had never happened in India, a convention of sorts. So for me, it was like, let's do it. If it fails, the worst thing that could be is that I would lose some money, but I would be the first person in India to do something like this. And that Wikipedia page entry would always say that I did it first. So that was the motivation. But I never thought of it as becoming, going to the scale at which it is right now. And but you never know where you're going to go. You have to keep trying, right?
And were your parents always supportive of your deciding?
Always. Otherwise, I wouldn't be
Always.
doing anything like this.
Lovely. And how does the sound of founder Comic Con sound now?
It's really cool. It makes me now. When I was younger, it was more fun. Now I'm in my 40s, so it makes me feel younger. So
Any more questions there? Okay, I have my last question. It's a very HR style of question, but then in a few years you'll be completing 2 decades of Comic Con. But where do you see it in next 5 years? Where do you want to take it? I am sure you have have had multiple milestones till now. But what is the next one that you are aiming to hit with Comic Con?
So right now we're trying to go to as many cities as possible, which is why we went from 5 to 8 to 11 to 14 now. I'm hoping in the next 10 years, we have kind of maxed out where all we can take it. And I think we are able to bring a lot more unique content to it. So obviously there's anime and manga, there's Western superheroes, but there's a lot more niches, and we're living in an age where, because there's so much content, everything is a niche, and every niche has a community in it. So the idea is that how many more communities could we fit into Comic Con, and for it to be truly a pop culture platform. So I'm hoping more and more niche communities and niche content is introduced to Indians through our shows. I know for a fact that our shows were some of the first places where people discovered superheroes, where they discovered anime and manga. So in the next 10 years, I hope that people still discover new content through us.
And out of the 14 cities that you already do Comic Con in, which is the toughest to crack?
Delhi.
Why do you say that?
Because every few years I feel like the audience completely changes and we have to redo the curation of the event. So you never know what we're headed into.
And which city are you aiming now? As you said, you want to take it to more cities. Any one city that you can mention and the reason behind it?
So one of the newest places we're going to is Vizag, and we plan to take it to Indore. because I mean, just because of the scale of the city is growing, and we felt with our partners that there was an audience there. So those are two cities which are brand new.
Lovely. All the very best on that. Thank you very much, Jatin. It has
Thank you
been
for
lovely
having me.
talking to you.